I do want to talk to you a little bit about something you've been really open, as far as I can tell on your social media, and certainly in your music, sort of woven into your music, is your personal life experiences and your personal struggles. Can you talk a bit about that, like your maybe things that happened during your childhood or even now that have, shaped you and deeply affected you, and how that becomes a part of your music?
Yeah, I think starting at sort of the beginning, I think when I moved to New Hampshire when I was like 6 years old, I think that was the first time I remember I was like, wait, I'm not accepted here. Like I was able to make some friends, but it was never easy. I felt like I had to not be myself. Like I remember, this is like a weird, like personal thing, but I remember I loved like wearing dresses when I was 6. And I remember going into school and someone said to me, why do you wear dresses all the time? That makes you a girly girl. And it was just like that was a small little thing, but
Sometimes
I
those
think
can be gigantic.
Yeah, my 6-year-old self from then on was like, wait, I have to be on my guard. Like these people are going to judge me for everything I do. And unfortunately, that continued throughout my life, like probably until I was honestly until college. Even in college though, I was bullied like pretty badly at like 2 different times in my life. One was when I was about 10 and one was when I was about 12. And I never understood why, because I was always the person who was nice to people and I was just trying to have friends, and I never did anything that merited them to be mean and exclusive. But
of course not.
It got to a point where I was so unhappy. But the thing was, it was sort of a psycho manipulation, and you wouldn't think that 10-year-olds would be capable of this, or even 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds or whatever. I was literally manipulated to feel like everything I said and did was wrong, to the point where I just had this like crippling anxiety about being in the world and interacting with these people, because I was judged for everything. I was put down for everything. And I was like, I don't know. It's like hard to describe without like going into specifics, but it was a very tough time for me. And I've just always felt like an outsider. I've never felt like making friends was easy. I've never felt like interacting was easy. I don't know. It's a lot.
I know. I mean, I can identify with you completely, and I'm positive that many listeners to this podcast identify. It's when you said that it's a little thing that you were wearing dresses and people were judging you. Those little things in and of themselves can be life altering events. And if one specific occasion is not enough to alter the course of your life, several of them are. When you started sharing about that particular moment of going into school, you liked to wear, you're a kid, this is what you like to do. And then you're getting this crazy, being judged. And immediately in my brain, a dozen of those experiences that I had personally just immediately burst into my brain. And that what you're talking about are traumas, that's what it is. It's a traumatic event.
Yeah. And
I
think
still thinking about something. I'm 48 years old. I still think about things that happened to me when I was 8 years old.
Yeah. I think
the bad stuff.
The dress thing seems very trivial. That I use that as an example because that was like sort of the first time. The things after that were not so trivial.
Yeah.
I just feel like I was in a very oppressive environment where everyone was on one side and I was on the other. Yeah, I don't, this is hard to describe. But basically, I just couldn't be myself. And that was extremely hard because I'm someone who loves expressing myself. And I also was constantly confused. I always felt very innocent. I remember, and it's interesting. There's a lyric in one of my new songs from my EP called Deep End, called Tunnels. And the lyric goes, "It's an inside joke with myself." And that lyric is directly taken from all of the social anxiety that I experienced, because one of the things that I remember when people were bullying me was the phrase inside joke. Like, I would ask them what they were talking about, and it was clearly about me. And they would be like, oh, it's just an inside joke. Mm-hmm. And that would always crush my soul, because they would use that as a justification for what they were doing, which was really, I don't know why it gave them some sort of gratification to make me feel bad, but it did. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. I mean, I think really something that we're beginning to really get to is people can be unspeakably cruel. And I tend to have the worldview that most people are generally good, but I don't see the world as a scary and dangerous place. That's just not that's not how I live. I don't live in fear, and but some people can be astoundingly cruel. Even kids, and especially when you get into junior high school and high school. I never went. Whatever 3 10-year anniversaries have passed since I graduated from high school, and I never went to any of them. That place was an absolute viper's nest.
I relate.
Right, I'm sure.
I didn't even talk about high school.
Yeah, what?
I didn't even talk about high school. High school was another thing.
Yeah, we'll get there. I absolutely want to hear what that experience was like for you. And I don't mean anything. I mean, I made genuine friends in high school. I keep in touch with about 3 of them. And I have no resentment or ill will or anything. It's a time in my life that was not fun at all. And there were a lot of really, really kind of heartless people that I interacted with that I just don't really care to interact with anymore. I just don't need that at all. It's just not something I care about anymore. So tell me about your high school experience.
I went to a high school that was extremely sports focused. There were amazing arts teachers there, mm-hmm. But if you were an arts kid, you were literally an outsider. I remember, I was never called this personally, but I remember someone telling me that other people called the arts kids creatures. That's how much of an outcast the arts kids were.
Yeah.
And the irony is, even when I was in with the quote unquote artsy kids, they bullied me too. So high school was a very traumatic experience too. It's interesting. I think groups are dangerous because there will be one person who decides that someone else is not worthy of their attention or their respect or even just a friendly conversation, and they have somehow the power. And I've never had this kind of power to influence other people, and I would never understand this. But there are certain people out there who have a way of influencing others to gang up on other people. And that's a big thing that I experienced a lot. And